Hello, hello, hello. I think we are live. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to have a very good discussion tonight. So I hope y'all are excited. I hope you are ready to hear and see the people on our panel from tonight. So let's get going. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nikedra Brown. I am the nurse practitioner who teaches and trains you ways to get and stay healthy. I do a Tip Tuesday, most Tuesdays, where I come to you at 1:35 in the afternoon, where I give you education and motivation to help you move to your next level of health. But on today, I am doing a special interview because it is 321. So if you watch me today, you should know what 321 is. So 321 is for trisomy 21. So we talked about Down syndrome, and we talked about the reason why we celebrate 321. So tonight I have three moms who are here. We're going to have a conversation. Y'all know how we do. We love to love on people. We love to make them feel loved. They're going to be talking about their loved one, their precious gems, and we're going to receive them as such. So make sure you give us some hearts. Make sure if you have any questions that you get those questions down below. Make sure as you come in, you say hello and you are welcome to have the conversation. All right, so I'm going to start with Terkeisha Brown. We're going to have intros. They're going to tell us about themselves and then tell us a little bit about their child with Down syndrome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us, Nikedra. It's nice to get to talk about this. This is the first time I think I've ever really talked to the public in general about me, my experiences, my child with Down syndrome, etc. But I'm Terkeisha Brown. I am a nurse by trade, and in 2014, I became pregnant, and in March of 2015, actually the end of this month, March 30th, I had a daughter. Her name is Chloe Brown, and it was when she was born, it was a little evident to me because I am a nurse by trade, so I kind of know some of the traits and the features of Down syndrome, that I started thinking, maybe my child has Down syndrome, but I did not know for sure. And then the physician came in the next day after she was born and said that we wanted to take her to the NICU for some testing. And I said, well, what do you think? You think she has Down syndrome? And he didn't want to say exclusively, but I kind of figured that that might be what he was going to say. And he asked, well, what makes you think that? And then he remembered, oh, you're a nurse. And I said, yeah. So I kind of figured things out, but he still didn't tell me. And it was a couple of days later. So we were discharged before we had her official results. And we went to her pediatric appointment that weekend. It was on a Saturday. First time I'd ever been in a physician's office on a Saturday, but the pediatrician was there in person, and we met, and that's when we got the diagnosis. And I was 39 years old when I had Chloe, and she is now 7, will be 8 next week.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you chose this platform to have this open conversation and to talk about Chloe and some of what you have been through in the almost 8 years since her birth. So thank you so much. Now we're going to go to Miss Katina.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Katina Moore Lakeram. I am a 49-year-old mother of 3. My daughter Della is 8, so I was almost 41 when I had her. My situation is different because I actually have 2 special needs kids. My oldest son has autism, and my baby girl Della has Down syndrome. I don't think much about it. I think just because it's just what it is. And I just kind of do what I do. But she has been a biggest blessing to me. She has been a blessing to me and a blessing to my family. And I learn from her every day. I learn how to keep things simple, not focus on things that I don't have any control over. And it's definitely it's been a journey, but it's been a good journey. And I'm just excited to be here tonight and looking forward to sharing some of our story with you all.
Thank you so much, Katina. Now we're gonna go to Miss Tanika. Tanika's gonna tell us a little bit about herself and about her children.
All right, hi. My name is Tanika Williams, and I'm a mother of three, but only have one kid that has Down syndrome. That's my youngest. I had him at 34, but we didn't know he had Down syndrome up front. But I knew there was something wrong with him because of his heart. He had looked like he had 3 chambers instead of 4 chambers. So I knew there was something wrong with his heart, but we didn't know he had Down syndrome until I had him.
All right, so I'm gonna reference the children from now on as Chloe, as Della, and as Kyrie, because quite commonly we don't reference the name, but there are definitely names behind faces. And so I want us to get comfortable with saying those names, and maybe we'll get an appearance from one of the 3 of them. If not, I have on my page posted with permission their pictures so you can see their beautiful faces and the cuteness that is inside of all of them. All right, so I think we have already asked about age because we recognize that one of the risk factors for Down syndrome is actually age. And so no one really knows for certain what really makes the body have 3 of the 21st chromosome. We really don't know, but what they found is that the risk factor of advanced maternal age, which is over 35, is a risk factor. So you've heard that Keisha and Katina were over 35 when they had their child, and Tanika was actually 34. So you can see how those statistics are panning out right here with our audience. What I'd like to hear is about testing during your pregnancy, because there's a whole bunch of testing that goes on, right? You get ultrasounds and you get blood work, and there's so many things that go on while you're pregnant. But did anybody ever explain to you or say to you that they were specifically testing for Down syndrome in general? And did you know before you actually gave birth that your child could have possibly had Down syndrome? So I'm gonna punt this one to Katina first.
Okay, so during the pregnancy, just the routine ultrasounds and all that was good. I noticed that one of my ultrasound appointments that they took quite a few pictures, so I felt like maybe they saw something, but the Down syndrome part actually never crossed my mind. My husband and I opted to forego any genetic testing. The reason being, it wasn't going to change our decision about the pregnancy, so I didn't see the need to do the testing because I wasn't going to do anything different with the pregnancy had I found out that there was some type of birth defects or sickness or illness or anything like that. So we did not do that. So with my situation, I carried her. It was full term. It was a tough pregnancy, again, because I was older. So, when you go to the OBGYN and you over 40, this big old red dot on your folder, letting folks know that she high risk, she old or whatever. And so I did that. So I full term 40 weeks and actually 37 weeks. So when I went to the hospital to have her, I had no idea beforehand. When I had her, the midwife immediately said to me, I see signs of Down syndrome. Like, she probably was still wet when she said that. And I was like, I wasn't upset, but I think it was just distasteful how she said it. But I was like, okay. And in that moment, I just thought, wow, okay. So here we are, and this is what we're going to do. But like I said, I had no idea before. I never found out anything until the day of her birth in November. So here I am in the hospital, almost stunned, to be honest with you. I was a little bit shell shocked, like, okay. But so anyway, that's how that came about. Like I said, we decided not to do the testing, and I don't regret it. I feel good about my decision. And that's just what we decided to do. So I found out after I had her.
So I'm gonna dig a little bit deeper before I go to Keisha. I too was over 35 when I had children. So I know about the red dot on your folder, and you have to do a little bit more because you are labeled advanced maternal age. And I too forgoed any testing to check for any type of hereditary and or diagnoses that could have been tested for genetically. My husband and I forego that because the same reason, even if they had found something, I didn't want it to worry me because of the what ifs, because my faith was strong enough to know that what if they found something that wasn't the end all be all, right? And so I didn't want to have that extra worry on me as I was pregnant, already high risk. So I just didn't do it. Now, I did not have a child with Down syndrome. However, I do want to ask in that moment just about the feeling, because there are a lot of stereotypes. Keisha's a nurse. Katina, I know you're in school or education. Tanika, you're in the public eye. And I know that you have seen and heard things as it relates to people and children with Down syndrome. So I gotta ask, what was your initial thought in terms of, if you can remember that far back? How did you feel knowing like this could be me, like this is my life?
Yeah, I think initially, like Kendra, I was almost numb in that first moment because it was so sudden. Like I just had her and she was like, well, wow, she has signs of Downs. And I'm like, I don't feel like I had a chance to get my bearings right, before I heard that. And there was no prep time. There was no, there was no appointments like to Keisha. I think they said, they went to the doctor and had time to think it through. I didn't have any of that type of wait time. It was almost immediate. So at first I was shell shocked. I got to be honest with you. You know how you get in the swing set and your heart just dropped. Kind of one of those feelings. Like I was like, oh my God, is this really happening right now? Like you can't be serious right now. But so yeah, I was a little bit shell shocked, because like I said, it happened so suddenly. I had her, and then within 5 or 6 minutes, she was like, wow, she looks like she has sounds of Downs,
And
so.
when they're talking about the signs of Downs, again, let me just reset the room. If you go back and watch Tip Tuesday from earlier today, I did talk about what some of those characteristic features are. Some of them are a flattened face. They have small ears, a short neck. So when you were talking about the ultrasound, they're probably measuring kind of the features of the short neck inside, almond eyes that kind of shape upward. They're typically shorter in stature with smaller hands and feet. Some of these characteristics, but not all. And again, if you are trained and people have done this long enough and they are a profession, they probably can give a look and give a clue as to the diagnosis. However, I do agree that, for somebody who had no idea, it was probably a little distasteful to hear it in that manner.
Yeah.
I'm going to go next to Keisha. Before I go to Keisha, let me reset the room because we have a bunch of people who are joining us live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is 3/21, World Down Syndrome Day. I have 3 moms who are here tonight just talking, some for the first time, about being a mom with a child who has Down syndrome. They are the mothers of Chloe, of Della, and Kyrie. They have decided to use this platform to let other mothers know and to let the general public know just what it's like to raise a child who has Down syndrome. So I am very appreciative that you all are welcoming them into the platform. Make sure you shout yourself out, you say hello. And if you have any questions, you put those down as well. So Keisha, same question. If you remember the question, we're talking about we're talking about testing and if you had any idea before, and then kind of that initial feeling and thought.
Okay, so no, we did not do any testing. I did go for genetic counseling, and that's where they just asked a bunch of questions about your family history and things like that. But as far as any invasive treatments, no, I did not. I did not do the amniocentesis. I felt like the risk of harming the pregnancy or harming the baby was greater than whatever was going to be the outcome. Just like Katina, it didn't matter. So whatever the result was, that's what it was going to be. And like you, I didn't want to worry because I'm a planner and all these things. And I probably would have made myself sick or the baby, given her some sort of harm, worrying about what were we going to do? How were things going to be? Because no matter what, you never know the outcome. Yes. I thought that was going to be your sighting. Is that Chloe? She wasn't good today in school, so she may not be able to come online. But so no matter what the outcome was going to be, it wasn't going to change our minds. We weren't going to do anything different. So the risk outweighed the benefits in our opinion. And yes, my faith was strong, and I kind of felt like whatever happens is what's supposed to happen. God doesn't make mistakes. Chloe was not a mistake, so we take it as it comes. Here she comes. But my initial feeling, I'll say that after she leaves, hey baby, come here and say hello, and then you go get your bath. She has to wear uniforms for school, but today you're looking a little rough, like you've been fighting on the playground. She wore her yellow bow, step over. She wore her yellow bow in honor of World Down Syndrome Day. You say hello?
Hello.
Hi, Chloe.
You see her, darling?
Hi, Patty.
You
How
tell
are
them how
you
old you are?
doing?
Two.
You say good, yeah. How old are you?
8.
Not yet. We're prepping her for next week. How old are you if you're not 8? How?
30.
No, you're not 30.
Yes, sir.
7. Yes. You're so silly. She's silly. When you ask about Chloe, she lights up a room. She smiles all the time. She is definitely the light of our lives. She brings a lot of joy and a lot of happiness, and she's a nurturer at heart. I like to say she got it from me, but maybe a little bit of her daddy too.
I do.
You do? Okay.
Thank you, Chloe, for coming to make an appearance. I like your bow.
Yes,
What color
dear.
is it?
Yellow dye.
It's
Yellow.
yellow.
Yellow sign.
Yellow sun. It is yellow like the sun.
My bow.
It is your bow.
Yellow
I
sign.
love it.
Okay. All right. Go ahead. It's time for your bath.
Thank
Say
you
goodbye.
for coming. Bye-bye. Bye. Yay, look at the special guest. Right on cue, wasn't she?
Yeah. Yes, it was. Close the door all the way. Thank you. She said good night, friends.
Good night.
So initially, I was a little numb, actually. I didn't know what to think. And this is why I don't talk about it a lot, because I get very emotional. And it's not because I'm sad, it's just filled with emotion, I should say. But initially I wasn't heartbroken. I think I was nervous. I was scared. I felt like I did something wrong, and I felt like because of my age, it was my fault. But I waited until we actually knew, because I was doing all this worrying beforehand, before I even found out definitively, although in my heart of hearts, I already knew that that's what was the case, because they have this deep line here in their hands. She had that. She had the space between her toes. A lot of the features, the flat nose, and the little, as you can see, the little almond shaped eyes. So a lot of things I kind of knew already, but I waited, and then I prayed, and then I let it go. I literally let it go and let God. And then once I found out, I started my research, because although I did know a little about Down syndrome, it wasn't as much as I know now. And I, found resources and people in the community, my friends, I leaned heavily on. I remember I found out definitively on a Saturday. None of my friends knew until I think the following week. Only my immediate family knew. I was just trying to figure out, how do you open that conversation? Oh, hey, here's my new baby. She has Down syndrome. So I didn't share that information with anyone other than my parents before almost a whole week had gone by. So a lot of unknown. I was a little anxious, but I was thankful, because at the end of the day, God had blessed us with the child. So it didn't matter.
So we're going to come back to kind of that feeling, that initial feeling, that initial thought, and what people think, and at what point do you get past that. But we got to hear from Tanika in terms of if you had any testing beforehand, what was your initial thought when you found out, and that sort of thing. So let's hear your story, girlie.
Okay. Am I up here?
You are.
All right. Okay. All right. This makes me really emotional because I don't talk about my kid a lot. So pregnancy, I started off in a hospital and a private care place in Raleigh because I really liked the doctor there. But the doctor said that he couldn't help me anymore because he wasn't sure what was wrong with my kid. He wasn't sure if he had Down, like if he had a genetic disorder or was it his heart, because he was seeing things that could affect my baby. So, so then I ended up having to go to Duke to the high risk clinic. I had to go to the doctor like every week to get monitored and stuff. And then they did a suggestive genetic counseling for us. And that's when we had like the different scans and stuff. They did offer me, like, but I was shocked because they did offer me to have an abortion because they said that people my age sometimes can't handle having kids that might have something wrong with them. My my baby's heart. So my baby had 2 open heart surgeries, but that was really difficult because I was indecisive, like what I wanted to do anyway. Because I was already mad that I was pregnant, to be honest. Not because he had Down syndrome or his
Right.
heart, but I was just mad because my birth control didn't work. I don't understand, but he's here. My initial reaction, I felt bad as a person because I thought it was my fault that something was wrong with my kid. And I didn't know how to protect my kid. Honestly, I still struggle with him having Down syndrome to this day. But he's
Mhm.
only 3, but I'm struggling. Like, it's really hard. Cause I feel like I feel as a parent, because a parent must protect their kids. And I feel like I didn't protect him, but I'm working on it.
It's definitely day
Sorry.
by day. Having these conversations, I think, make it a little bit easier. I think I really wanted to make sure, because I know each of you in different ways and from different parts of my life, right? And I think it's important that you have at least somebody who can understand.
Yeah.
And so quite often I'll see a post and it just makes me smile. You know, you never know what you posting a picture of Kyrie might do for Keisha or Katina on the day that they're struggling, you know, and they can say, oh my goodness, she's going to school. Or I saw that Keisha went to eat lunch with Chloe one day this week, you know, and so you never know when people are looking, and you never know just how much support you can be. So now the 3 of you all know each other. That can be some sort of internal support.
Right.
I'm gonna move as we close the conversation to support, but I want to know about the first year, because I may be wrong, but I think the first year just may be really, really difficult as you continue to get your head around the diagnoses. I think Keisha alluded to the fact where, how do you tell your family and your friends, and they, you know, see your child and they're like, hey, you know, you have to answer certain questions, then the resources that are available. What about the first year? And if you could give some advice to other moms in the first year, just kind of tell us what life was like, what the people don't really know. If they could roll back the curtain and see you going to this appointment and going to that appointment and having to answer this, what was that first year kind of like? And what may be some things that people don't really know that you had to go through? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So our first year was definitely our most challenging year. Della was born, like I said, full term, but then like she started having issues like immediately. So she did not know how to suck a milk bottle, you know, so she couldn't suck a milk bottle. So the first week of her life, she just constantly kept dropping off weight. We couldn't feed her. We're trying to figure out. So they brought in a feeding team to try to we have to push the nipple to the top of her mouth and hope the milk will go down her throat. So she had a whole issue there. And they did some tests and x-rays, couldn't figure out why. Come to find out, she had this issue going on in her stomach. So she had a whole stomach reconstruction at about 11 days old. They had to go in and her spleen was out of whack and her intestines were, it wasn't packaged correctly. Atresia or something. I can't remember the proper name for it, but they had to go in and repackage everything, her intestines, her spleen. They had to repackage all that
My God.
correctly in there. And she had something in her throat that was preventing her from swallowing. So that she had that surgery, she got the gash, and after that, she was able to start eating more, but we struggled. The doctor said that she would not gain weight, that she would not be able to eat properly ever. They said that she would not be able to gain weight. And so we struggled with that. The feeding team had to come to my house and help us try to figure out ways to feed her. Monitoring the surgery. She has a big, beautiful scar on her all the way across her stomach from that surgery she had. She did have the holes in her heart, the 3 holes in her heart. So she was back and forth to the cardiologist. We used to go every 6 months, then to every year. And God is so good because 2 of her holes closed up on their own.
Amen.
They had said that we would have to have open heart surgery, but 2 of them closed right up. And so we never had to go. And so now we just go every other year, because they said since those holes closed up, she didn't have to have the surgery. But the biggest thing with Della not talking, like even if she's 8 now, she doesn't talk a lot, and she can talk. So she only talks when she gets ready. She has the whole conversations with me, but she has good receptive language. Like she knows what you're saying. She can follow commands. She can do things. She goes to the potty. She's potty trained. She wears panties. And she'll go poop and she won't say anything, but she just go to the bathroom, So I do miss the language, but she's been in speech therapy since she was 6 months. We had to do OT because she took a long time to walk. She couldn't go up steps. So, with Down syndrome, their muscle tone is really weak. So we struggled with that. So we had to constantly keep her in OT. She graduated from OT. She was able to go up the steps and able to walk by herself and able to run. So all those things took time, but so eventually, as years have gone by, she's learned to eat. She's about 99 pounds now, praise God, but she's overweight. But anyway, that's another topic. We're gonna have to talk to Miss Brown how to get her healthy. But and I guess because the doctors were so insistent that she would never be able to eat properly and she would never be able to gain weight, that we were insisting that yes, she will. And obviously we've overdone it, but we were determined. So her godmother put her on a cycle, and every few hours we were putting food in her mouth. We were giving her a bottle to make sure that we could see the weight gain. My greatest advice to any family would be early intervention. Do not wait. If you have been told or you identify that there's a need, immediately put supports in place, immediately find out what resources are out there. Like I started, when I noticed that she wasn't babbling and stuff, she started speech therapy 6 months. 6 months. When she wasn't walking, by crawling by 7 to 8 months, we started OT. Already get her up, get her on her legs, get her on her knees, trying to build up some of that mobility. So we started treatments right away within the first year. And I think that has helped us to navigate through some of those tough times with her, and just following up and just seeing what resources are out there and just not waiting. And as far as talking to my family, because I already have a special needs child, it wasn't that big of a conversation, but quite naturally, I started with my parents, my mom, my dad, and talking it through with her siblings and stuff like that, the godparents, because those are the ones gonna have to get my back. And I just really worked on making sure I got my support system in place. I mean, this is not a journey you can take by yourself. Like you're gonna be crazy, like seriously, because their mind will play tricks on you. Because some days I'm like, oh, woo, So I think it's just important to get that support system in place. So that would be my greatest advice for that first year. Because for me, the first year was the toughest one.
Early intervention is critical. Let me reset the room before you come in, Tanika, with your answer to that question. Welcome, welcome, welcome for those who are tuning in. It is 3/21 World Down Syndrome Day. So we are taking time. We are donning our gold and our blue, which are Down syndrome colors, to just pay tribute to Della, to Chloe, to Kyrie, and their mothers for being amazing. I want to thank them once again for joining us on tonight. I'm not going to hold them all night. We have a couple more questions, and then it's bedtime for the kiddos. Tanika's hungry, but we wanted to make sure that we gave you information. Make sure you press that share button if you haven't already. Share this out. Share it with someone you know who has Down syndrome. Share it with people on your news feed, because above all, we want to make sure that people hear the information and can actually understand some of what moms go through, because she just said you can't do this by yourself. You have to be support. There was a question about age. So if y'all don't mind telling how old you are, we talked about Down syndrome being a risk factor at high risk. And I think y'all did tell how old you were when you were pregnant, but they want to know how old you are now because y'all looking amazing. So Keisha, how old are you now?
I am 47 and will be 48 in July of this year.
48
And,
in July of this year. And you had Chloe at what age?
39.
39. Katina, if you don't mind, how old are you now? And then how old were you when you had Della?
I'm 49 now. I'll be 50 in November, and I was almost 41. I had her November the 2nd. I turned 41 November 29th.
Thank you. And then Tanika, how old are you now?
I am 37 now. I'll be 38 Friday. I had my baby at 34.
All right, and so you're going to talk to us next about what you found to be helpful, or what was your biggest barrier, I guess, in the first year. What sorts of things would you tell new moms who are navigating this process?
All right. So since mine was a little different with the Down syndrome, but because I was more stressed because my baby had to have open heart surgery right after he came out. Well, maybe a week after he came out, he had to have open heart surgery. But when my baby came out, like, first of all, the doctors, like, I had really good doctors, and I had some doctors that was really tough for me. Like, they told me my baby couldn't do nothing. He'll be a vegetable. He won't be able to cry. He won't be able to do anything, basically.
Oh,
But
wow.
when I pushed him out, I already made in my mind I wasn't gonna hear him. And I was like, who was that crying? Like, who baby so loud? My baby was crying. So therefore my baby had a voice. When my baby came out, he was able to drink from a bottle, because they told me he won't be able to do that either. But we stayed in the hospital a while because he had open heart surgery. So they had to do one surgery at a time. He had two. But what was hard for me was seeing my baby, and I couldn't protect my baby. But I had a very big support system that went and saw my baby every day for me, because I couldn't get the courage to go see him. It took me maybe 3 weeks to go actually go see my baby. Not because I didn't want him, there's a lot going on. And I just couldn't want negative. I didn't want to be negative around my kid, and my kid don't heal well. But my support system, like having a very big support system, is the key, because it kept me strong, because I was struggling, like, big time. My mom and my best friend, they was there all the way. Resources. So my baby started off with physical therapy. He has speech, but he's saying some words now, but he's not saying full sentences. But he communicates well, like through sign language and stuff, but not verbally, I guess you say that way.
Mhm.
Man, therapy. It's okay to have therapy, because it's
Say
very,
so.
please get it. Like, it helps, because, like, my mind be going to the worst before it goes to the good. So, like, having therapy helps. But I also signed up, like, when I had my baby, it was a nurse thing I could sign up for. So I have a nurse that follows me until my son turns 5. And she helps me with different resources and stuff to get for him. Signing up
Where
for,
did
like,
you find, did she find you or did you find her?
she found me.
Okay.
But maybe later on I can give you the information and stuff, because it's a thing that she's in, and I can give it to you, so maybe you can share with the other mothers.
Okay.
But signing up for, like, they sent me like a whole package to my house about Down syndrome, because I knew nothing about it, like books to read and stuff. They even gave me like kid books for my kids to read, so they understand what's going on with their brother.
Mm-hmm.
But in my house, we treat Kari just like any other child in the house. So, like, if he go in something, he get in trouble for it too. So, and I keep my kids to teach him that way too. So now we're working on potty training, but it does take a village, because my baby is going to like a pre-K program and daycare to get all the resources. That is a lot of resources out there to help. I don't know what else to say. I'm overwhelmed.
That's
Sorry.
And hungry, right?
And hungry, yes. I can't even think straight.
You good. All right, Keisha, we're
I'm
gonna
sorry.
put that question to you. First year, talk about resources, and then what I haven't asked, just talk about the financial involvements. Because you mentioned that you're in healthcare, all of you all work, are gainfully employed, and we know sometimes those who tend to have something sometimes get left out when it comes to resources and the distribution. And a lot of people don't factor that in terms of what the financial commitment is as well. So I'm gonna let Keisha have that one.
Oh my goodness, so many things, so many things. So we were blessed. I will say that first and foremost. When I went to pick a pediatrician, I went to a facility called Regional Pediatrics that was close by, just because it was one of the pediatrician offices near Durham Regional where we had our baby. And just so happened the physician, one of the physicians' names, and literally y'all, I didn't know anything about pediatricians. I went down a list trying to figure out who I would select. It happened to be a doctor named Dr. Stifler, and he was actually my pediatrician in my later teen years and had been my brothers and sisters' pediatrician their whole lives until they were 18. And I said, well, this is good. And he was the one, like I said, he told me he wasn't going to say anything. He wanted to get some testing. He took all the time with us that Saturday talking about what was going on with Chloe, gave us his cell phone number, and then the resources started. Like he went, I mean, all out in my opinion. But right off the bat, we were set up with a lactation consultant. So she did have patent ductus arteriosus, they call it PDA. She didn't have 3 holes in the heart, but she had the one. And thankfully it did close up on its own. We were being followed by a cardiologist. We had to go every 3 months, and then it trickled off to every 6 months to the point where it was every year. And to be honest with you, all I remember about the cardiologist now is their name. We haven't been in so long, and she no longer has a murmur. So it completely closed on its own. When she was born, she didn't really have any major defects, any physical defects or anything. But as far as feeding, I don't feel like I had a maternity leave. I initially took 4 months off. I didn't do the 3 months. I took 4 months. And that last 3 weeks is really when I felt like I was getting to the part where most moms feel during their whole maternity leave. I started feeling that way in the last 3 weeks. But when we came home, we started with the lactation consultant. We went to this person who was also speech therapy 3 days a week. So every other day, I was on the highway on 40, nervous wreck with a newborn baby going in and out of the speech therapist's office so she could watch me breastfeed every day because Chloe was losing weight. How did we know Chloe was losing weight? We had a nurse, Tanika, that found us and came to the house. She weighed Chloe, she assessed Chloe, she did all these things. And I said, well, where did you come from? I was like, who told you to come here? And it was someone from Dr. Stifler's office. There was a resource for new moms, for nurses to follow babies. It wasn't someone from his office, but he reached out to the resource. And that's how she knew to come to my house. And she said, oh, she lost weight since she's been home. So we had to rent a scale. And before and after every single feeding, we had to weigh her. Can y'all imagine that? After every single feeding? So it was a lot. And we did that for nearly a month. So I felt like I was still working when I had Chloe. It wasn't like, oh, we get to spend mother-baby time. My mother-baby time was taking her to and from this speech therapist / lactation consultant. Well, actually, we started with the lactation consultant who referred us to the speech therapist to watch us feed and all that stuff. And then it went from that, oh, she's going to need that tongue tie clipped and all that stuff so she can suck better and do all this. So all of that had to happen before she actually started feeding well and gaining weight. And it was a lot. My breastfeeding experience, I was ready for it, and it was hardly anything that I expected. I had to attach a plastic piece every time she fed, just so we could ensure that everything was long enough and reaching to the back for her to actually get that suckle motion so she could feed appropriately. But we did it. We got through it. She's healthy. She ate well. But then started I went down to, was it social services? I'm not sure. The Social Security Department, I can't remember. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, I was so defeated. I cried all the way home. I was so, first of all, I was mad when I'm standing there because they just tell me, you get nothing. You don't need anything because you have more than one car in your household and you have this and you have that. And I said, but it's my child. It's not for me. But all these things like that speech therapist and that lactation consultant, that wasn't free. And we went 3 days a week. Now, when you pay for physical therapy, that's $50 a pop. And she had that 3 days a week. She had to get, she had a baby walker when she was around 1 or 2 to help start her and strengthening her muscles so she could be able to walk. And then we had to get orthotics. So the orthotics, so she could walk and have foot support, those things are expensive, not necessarily covered by insurance. So a lot of different things financially that people don't really take into consideration and don't really even have to worry about when it comes to having a baby with Down syndrome. And not all babies will have all the issues. Like I said, I didn't have as many issues. Like she didn't have to have surgery, thank goodness for her heart. We did have surgeries down the road, but it wasn't related to her heart or anything like that. But it is a financial burden, and it's something that you have to plan and prepare for once you know what things have to happen. And that's when you also tap into your resources. And part of one of the resources, is other parents. They were the ones that helped me understand, well, you can go and ask for this, or you can register for this. I had no idea. You never know where to start. So I always say, make sure you get your network. You've got your friends who have typical children, but then you want to speak to moms who don't, so that you know what your resources are and where you can tap into those and get the help you need, not just financially, but support. That was the biggest thing. They have this place called Gigi's Playhouse, which I love from afar and would want to do all the things. But when I started working, it's impossible because everything's offered during the day. I think it's mainly for people who homeschool, and a lot of people who have children with Down syndrome probably do homeschool, but we send Chloe to a regular school. But yeah, the first year was definitely a lot of struggles, a lot of frustration, a lot of learning, getting to know her and what makes her tick. And then multiple doctor's visits. That was the biggest thing. And again, doctor visits aren't free. You got all those copays, and you had to go back each and every time there was an issue. Each and every time she would have, we would go our North Carolina eye, ear, nose, and throat. She had an ENT because she would always be so congested, and what we thought were like sinus infections. But they say children don't get sinus infections, but her sinuses were so inflamed. And so she never had to get tubes in her ears, never had that problem. But we did end up having to, she was having tears all the time. Tears would come out. She'd have mucus from her eyes because she'd be so congested. So we had a tear duct dilation surgery. That was her first one. And then the next one was a tonsillectomy and adenoidectomy, because once she became like, I think 3, she snored like a grown person. And I said, this is not normal. And when I told him that, it was like, oh, well, let's try this, or we're going to do this. It wasn't until I sat up one night and watched Chloe and my heart stopped watching her. She stopped breathing for 10 seconds. And I said, we need to do something. I don't know if there's a CPAP for children this age, but we need to figure out what's going to help her to breathe at night, because she wasn't getting rest and she'd fall asleep at the drop of a hat. So I knew that, it wasn't right. But like I said, a lot of struggles. Those were her biggest issues. And that was from age 0 to 4. And she's been a healthy, bouncy baby ever since. She's walking, trying to talk. We do have speech therapy. The problem with that, you want speech therapists that really are involved and want to see your child progress, but it's difficult when you also want them to get an education, right? So most therapy hours are during the day, during the school time. And I have a husband who says absolutely no missing school. We don't have missed school days. She has perfect attendance. He's very proud of that, and so is she. But at the same time, like I was telling Nikidra, I think this summer I'm going to have to plan one day a week during summer camp, she's going to have an hour with the speech therapist, because as a mother, you want them to do all the things that they're capable of doing. And Tanika, like you said, you treat your child just like everyone else. I do the same. And people say, oh, you're so hard on Chloe. No, I'm not. You would do the same for your child. It doesn't matter that she has Down syndrome. She can learn, she can do just like everyone else. So it might take her a little bit of time. She might be a little delayed with it, but she's going to learn and do all the things other children do, at least to her ability. So yeah, advocate for your child. Advocate by learning, educate yourself, and get involved in groups and talk to people who know things, who can be a resource to you and to your child. It really helps. And share your stories, because people don't understand unless you tell them. They really don't.
Absolutely.
Did I answer your question?
Yes,
did.
you did. You
I'm
did.
bad.
And we
I'm bad about that.
are nearing the end of our conversation. I always give y'all a time, and then we always go over our time because it's such good conversation. But we're going to wrap this thing up. I do want to invite everybody who is here. There've been a bunch of comments that I know you all can't see. The mothers can't see, but everybody is congratulating you, thanking you for being on the panel, giving you kudos for being great moms. So they are really excited and happy that you decided to share with us tonight. I did want to give some statistics about Down syndrome. About 1 in every 700 babies is born with Down syndrome. So that's about 206,000 people now. Thankfully, people are living longer with Down syndrome. About 27,000 of those living with Down syndrome are African American. And so 3 out of those 27,000 we actually know right now by name. So 138,000 are Caucasian, and then 32,000 are Hispanic or other. So I always try to teach you all just kind of where minority health fits in with the spectrum. So just know Down syndrome is not just limited to minorities, but it is one that affects all ages, all races. And so again, as we get ready to go off, make sure you all share this out if you're watching this on your news feed. Share this so other people can get the information. I do appreciate the moms giving of their time, making sure this is a safe platform. So for those of you who are watching, making sure they felt safe to share their stories. We got a special sneak peek from Chloe. If you missed her, she came in to see us earlier. I have posted pictures and will post additional pictures of Chloe, Kari, and Della, so that you all can just see their lovely and cuteness that is in each of them. And so before we hop off, I'm going to let each of you just give some parting words of advice for those who are watching and whatever you want to say. So we'll start with Keisha, since she started us off tonight.
Okay, so the first thing I will say is, like I said, learn about Down syndrome, love your child. It's not their fault. It's not your fault. And it's not a death sentence. Once you realize that, this is fine, they're going to be fine. We just have to advocate for them, educate ourselves, and do the best that we can. I have high expectations for my child as I would for any other child. I hold her to the same standard I would most other children. Learn what they learn and help influence that. She learns things at school. I ask them, what are they working on, so that we can work with her even more, because the school time is not dedicated, but our time is. So we work with her more on what she needs, learn what makes them tick. So there are things that might make your child tick. Just learn your child, advocate for them. I can't say advocate enough, but be patient with yourself, be patient with them, remain hopeful, and always be inclusive.
Thank you. Katina?
The first thing that I would say is just embrace. Just embrace your child as they are, who they are. Don't get caught up in the comparison game. Della is Della. My only comparison is to compare her against herself. As long as she's progressing, as long as she's getting better, that satisfies me. And I don't get caught up in saying what she can't do. I capitalize on the things that she can do. I learn to see God every day and everything. And I have come to the understanding that God loves me so much because he trusted me with one of his angels. And that's a blessing because he knew that I was going to take care of her. I'm grateful that he didn't give her to a parent who wasn't as loving and caring as I am, because he loves us and he trusts us. So he said, you know what? Let me try Tanika. Let me try Keisha. They're going to take good care of these babies. So that lets us know that God thinks highly of us. And so I count it an honor to be able to care for that sweet angel. And again, like the ladies have said, resources, capitalize on everything that's out there and utilize what's available to your babies.
Thank you so much. And Tanika,
Yes. Oh, it's my turn. Sorry.
it is.
Um,
What are your parting words for tonight?
Patience. Trust your instincts with your kids. If you think something's off, go find help. Always ask questions because someone out there may know it, even if you don't know it. Utilize all your resources. Make sure you have a good support team, because having a good support team keeps you standing for you can be strong for your kid, because your kids can feel when you're falling sometimes. So I think that's really good to have.
Mhm.
That's all I got to say.
Absolutely. So thank you, ladies, so much. Way to celebrate 321. I appreciate you all for being here, taking time out of your schedules. I know it's sleep time. I know it's bedtime, all those good things. And we are excited that we have had lots of people to tune in and view. And again, they are super excited that you all decided to share tonight. So before we bid people farewell, we just want to take time to make sure that everyone is being inclusive. So in a world where people are trying to be extraordinary and exclusive, just make sure you take time to be inclusive, that you invite people into your space, that you share with them and that you love them. That's what being inclusive is all about. So until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
See you later.